You see a close-up of a woman's blue eye. Blackness moves towards the center of the eye and then goes away. A kaleidoscopic blue and green image that transitions into a bridge over the ocean. Ren Amari and Jared Amari are sitting on the beach wearing black wetsuits. Ren asks Jared if he wants to go back in the water. Jared says no and asks if Ren will stay there forever. But he changes his mind when Ren offers him goggles and flippers. They swim through the clear water. Another kaleidoscopic that transitions into a view from a building window. Ren wakes up with black liquid coming out of her right eye, sitting on the floor with many used droppers around her. A timer shows that OtherLife will start in just over 6 days. Voiceover begins from Ren sitting in an interview with the TDA, a drug administration. An interviewer talks about Ren's great academic record which ended 4 years ago, where Ren responds that her brother almost drowned in an accident. The interviewer offers her condolences, but Ren clarifies that her brother survived. They talk about how OtherLife is hard to describe. Ren says it's not a drug, but a biological software that lets you create new memories that feel real. Ren visits her brother in the hospital. He is in a coma. She sets up a laptop and headband to read his brain before she puts black fluid in his eye. Then, Ren is on a train. She ignores a call from her dad. She arrives at a busy office. A coworker, Byron, tells her to clear the approvals in her queue. In her other life, Ren jumps from a plane and parachutes to the ground. She wakes up in a testing room with Byron. A cutback to the interview, we learn that Ren's father has warned about the dangers of using her technology for too long. He worries it could cause seizures and brain death. Ren says there are risks just like with any substance that is overused. Ren describes her technology in a voiceover as she tests a hiking experience. She says it's like a script the brain follows to create a perfect day, using parts of the subconscious. Ren also says there's no chance the experience can last longer than a day. She tests a snowboarding experience where she climbs a snowy mountain and then snowboards down. But the experience keeps repeating, taking her back to the cabin at the start of the day. She gets stuck as the setting twists and changes around her. Byron finally gets her out. By then, she had spent 6 days inside the experience. She insists she can fix the code and that they can still use it because the snowboarding experience was going to be a big seller. At a sales meeting, Sam, Ren's co-founder of OtherLife, presents the idea to possible buyers. He describes it as viable free time where people can have full adventures before work or during lunch. Sam says OtherLife is more than a simulation and could add years of experiences to someone's life. He ends the presentation by asking the clients what they want to do with their other life. When Ren arrives, Sam introduces her as his co-founder and asks her to explain some of the science behind the technology. After the meeting, Sam and Ren don't agree on what the company needs next. As Ren leaves the meeting, she sees Danny, who was waiting for a date Ren had forgotten about. She says sorry but says she has to work. Back at the interview, the interviewers read reports about how users can start to disconnect from reality. They say this kind of experience could make people feel isolated. Ren and Byron work late that night to fix the snowboarding experience. The countdown clock shows OtherLife will start in about 5 days. Ren finds the mistake in the code and tests the new version without problems. They keep working late and Byron asks how many tests Ren has done. She says 482, which he compares to living about 20 days in OtherLife during one real day. Danny comes in to give a report Sam had asked for on the long-term use of OtherLife. Ren says she didn't know about it as she reads it. She also tells Byron not to go to Sam behind her back. Byron thinks the repeating glitch they've been getting could be the key to longer simulations. He and Danny decide to go out for drinks, but Ren stays to keep working. She runs the swimming simulation with her brother again and is surrounded by the empty droppers from her tests. She records the result of her 340th test and says it still needs more testing. The interviewers talk about using OtherLife for medical reasons like brain and memory disorders. They also mention the possible moral issues since it puts ideas in people's heads. Ren says she has no other uses in mind. She goes back to her brother's bedside to try OtherLife on him again. His eye twitches and she feels hopeful. When a nurse comes over, she hides her tech and asks him about it. The nurse says things like eye twitches happen sometimes. Ren goes home and looks at the data. Byron and Danny call her about what she's missing during their night out. She gets an email from her dad about stopping her brother's life support. The next day, she visits her dad at the college where he teaches. They talk about OtherLife, its morality, progress, and how it could help her brother. Her dad is worried about a glitch, but she keeps saying it's just bad code. He says that depression, anxiety, and other mental problems could also be bad code, but the brain is more complex than that. Ren says he's giving up on her brother and that if he's conscious, he just needs a way to get out. Her dad says he could unplug her brother without her agreement and is just asking for her support. Ren goes to work, upset. She asks a coworker named Cass to help her take her files out of the system. Sam and Byron see that they've been using more nanite stock than her reported tests. They ask what simulation she's using, but she won't say, only that it's still experimental. Byron leaves and she talks with Sam alone. He suggests using OtherLife as a prison to help people change and let them serve their sentences in minutes. But Ren refuses and Sam gets mad, yelling at her to work on the real product. She leaves and sees Danny outside. He tries to find out what's wrong, but she doesn't want to talk. Instead, they both leave and have sex. After, Ren shows Danny the snowboarding experience. They talk about how everything, even memory, is a chemical. Danny says he didn't expect the experience to feel so real. Then, as Ren checks her phone, Danny takes another dropper from her purse and tries it, thinking it was more of the snowboarding experience. Instead, he gets one of Ren's experimental ones where she swims with her brother. He starts having seizures and won't wake up, so Ren calls an ambulance. The countdown clock is a little under 5 days from release. Ren and Sam talk with legal counsel. She corrects them when they call OtherLife a drug and says it's software. Sam decides to talk to Ren alone and asks about the experience that killed Danny. Every other experience had been tested many times, but only Ren had tested that one. In the interview, the interviewer asks Ren what her goal for technology is, but she doesn't answer. To handle the situation without sending Ren to jail, Sam arranges a deal where Ren would agree to be a trial patient in a 1-year confinement in OtherLife instead of having charges against them. Sam pressures her to do it to keep the company going, but she doesn't want to. She realizes Sam was still planning to use the confinement use of the tech without telling her. Sam says a minute of her life is better than the other choice since she killed someone with an untested sample. She agrees. Ren, Sam, Byron, and some officials go to the testing room. The 365-day trial is much longer than the usual 24-hour simulation, so Ren nervously asks Byron to make sure everything has been checked. When Byron puts her under, Ren finds herself in a small room with a screen showing the number 001 on a wall. She hears an electronic buzzing sound from the digital number. The room has a sleeping mat, a toilet, a tablet and pen, and a hatch for food, water, and toiletries. She exercises, eats, and writes notes on her tablet about how to make the space better, but then remembers that no one else will be able to read those notes. When the cell resets for the day, the light turns red and the number changes to 002. She remembers Danny having seizures and bangs her head on the wall. On the 3rd day, Ren hums and reaches her fingers between the grate on the floor to distract herself. On the 5th day, she remembers swimming with her brother and losing him, seeing him wash up on the beach. She promises her brother she won't forget him. As the days go by, she starts taking notes about people who woke up from long-term comas and what triggered their recoveries. She argues with herself about whether her brother is really gone and if she can bring him back with programming. Day 365 comes, and she waits as the lights turn red. But then the room resets to 001. Ren panics, realizing the exit routine didn't work. She shouts and starts breaking things. Eventually, she lays still in the damaged room but hears wind whistling. She opens the hatch and finds a gap, which she pushes at. Through the gap, she finds and rips a plastic sheet and climbs through into a warehouse-like room with her plastic sheeting covered cell inside. She finds stores of the food and water she'd been eating, a monitor room, and a guard's desk. The guard comes back to his desk and sees her, so she grabs the keys and a coat to run from him, stealing a truck to get away. Ren ends up walking along a busy road, seeing ads for OtherLife and people everywhere. Ren calls the hospital to ask about her brother and goes back to her workplace to find it empty. She buys new clothes and sees a magazine cover with Sam's face. She goes to the police and they find a missing persons report for her, but also that she was listed as living in Italy for the past year. She tries to tell them about what happened with OtherLife and that she was the co-founder, but the police don't find any evidence of charges against her. When they go to check the cell, they find nothing but remnants. She checks her apartment, but someone else has been living there for the past year, and the attendant at the front desk won't let her check for her things. Meanwhile, Sam arrives, saying he had come as soon as he heard and wanted to get her somewhere safe. The attendant doesn't let Sam into the building, and Ren tries to avoid him. She eventually sneaks out without Sam seeing her. Ren goes to find Kaz for help, who lets her in and gives her something to eat. Kaz says the other workers thought Ren had cashed out and left for Italy without saying goodbye. Ren also finds out that Danny didn't die and sees him again. Ren, Kaz, and Danny meet at a restaurant where Danny talks about his experience in the swimming simulation, feeling like he was drowning. He woke up in the hospital but was okay after a week of testing. The launch of OtherLife was successful, with confinement being a main part of the company and some sentences proposed to last decades or even centuries. Ren wants to find out what happened, while Danny encourages her to run or tell the media. Ren reveals that she registered her dad's patent, which he refused to use, hoping to help her brother. But Sam had stolen that patent. Ren and Danny sneak into the OtherLife building, using Kaz's ID badge to look for Ren's data. They find Byron's office, and Danny holds him back so Ren can use his computer. She finds her hard drive and takes it, but Byron manages to alert the authorities. Ren punches him and they both leave. Danny and Ren escape, but Kaz is caught by the authorities. Ren says they will need an OtherLife printer, but since most of them are in the OtherLife building, they leave the city to get to the one at Robert's house. When they arrive, the house is empty, so Ren starts working. She wakes up the next morning at the desk, and she and Danny have breakfast and take in the location. She apologizes to him, he forgives her, and they have sex. The image of her eye from the beginning of the story appears, and she wakes to the sound of her dad coming home. Ren tells her dad about how Sam stole her work. She also realizes that her dad was the one who filed the missing persons report. Back at the printer, Ren explains her swimming simulation. When Danny took it, it gave him the experience of being underwater and he drowned, subconsciously choosing that option for how the simulation would go. Ren's intent when designing the experience was to create multiple branches to give Jared a choice and an option where he could get out alive and wake up. Her version of OtherLife was one with the option to rewrite memories, which was dangerous and drug-like. She also worried that the company would eventually refine it to that same point. Robert says he'll call the TDA to raise a safety challenge, which will keep Sam busy for a while in a review and give them time to finish it. But Ren prints the experience and insists that it will work when her dad asks if she had already finished it. She goes to the hospital to give it to her brother. After a few moments, he wakes up and Ren is happy, but then he starts to have uncontrollable seizures. Ren hesitates, crying, then finally unplugs him. She stays by his side at the hospital into the night until Sam approaches her. He describes seeing how Jared had made a decision to live in a dream world rather than wake up. Ren starts seeing flashes of the testing room, people shouting and confused, and Byron telling her to wake up. The hospital disappears, and she returns to the beach again, alone, and realizes that she's still in her other life. She walks into the water and lets the waves crash over her. The water shifts to kaleidoscope imagery with distorted voices, eventually turning red. Ren wakes up in the testing room and punches Sam before trying to destroy the recording. She eventually calms down and sits with T as she thinks about her brother and her interactions with her dad and Danny while in the experience. Ren answers the ambition question in the interview, saying she wants to give people a special chance at a kind of life they might not know otherwise. The interviewers approve the programming for public use. Sam and Ren talk, and she apologizes for punching him. She tells him she wants to leave the company to focus on research and development. She would leave the company with Sam but keep the patent. This makes Sam angry, and he throws something from his desk once she leaves. Ren goes to Danny's funeral where he is cremated and talks to her dad about Sam. She asks him to come with her to the hospital. Before Ren can get to the hospital, she gets a call from Sam. He tells her that she needs to see something in person, so she goes back to the office and is greeted by things being put away. She finds Sam and Byron reviewing her experience. They realize that she had managed to break out of the prison and get excited about it as a potential interactive experience. But Ren refuses to help and tries to leave. Sam convinces her to sit down as he explains why she should help, but then he tries to force her back into the same experience. At first, Byron refuses to help until Sam tells him that the sooner he helps, the sooner Ren can get back to them. So Byron sets up the experience. Ren finds herself back in the prison, where she starts thinking her way through the days, and she manages to wake up on her own. When she gets up, she wipes the fluid from her cheek and forces Sam into the same experience. She and Byron watch as Sam goes through the days until the system crashes, and they realize that they will have to wake him up or he could die. But Ren waits to do so until he has gone through all 365 plus 1 days like she had. Sam wakes up, and Ren and Byron leave him to sob in the chair. Later, Ren meets with her father at the hospital, and they mourn Jared's death. Ren returns to the bridge at the beach and watches the ocean. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.